Hello and welcome back to a very special Monday episode of Our Dead Dads, the podcast where we normalize talking about all forms of grief, trauma, loss, and moving forward. Not everybody has a dead dad, but everyone has a grief story, and we're here to talk about all of them. Nothing fixes everything, but talking about it is a great place to start. I'm your host, my name is Nick Gaylord, and thank you so much for listening and for making this show part of your day. Thank you for continuing to support the show, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and follow the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening now, and do that so that you don't ever miss an episode. While you're there, please give us a 5-star rating because those ratings and reviews really do make a difference. If you don't know how to leave a review, check out the website, ourdeaddads.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you'll see a step-by-step guide of just how to do that. You can also follow the show on our social media pages on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And don't forget to check out the merch store. So many brand new items are up in the merch store on ourdeaddads.com. Just look for the merch button in the upper right corner. And if you'd like to donate to the show, if you want to throw us a few bucks because you love the show and you love the mission of giving everyone with a grief story the opportunity to talk about it, it absolutely helps and we really appreciate it. You can click on the donate button on the website, make a one-time donation, or you can donate on a recurring weekly or monthly basis. Your contributions go a long way toward keeping the show going and bringing incredible guests to help everyone find their path through their grief journeys. Keep spreading the word about the show. We now have listeners in more than 40 countries, and we can't say thank you enough. And speaking of incredible guests, today is no exception. This is episode number 37, and for the very first time, my guests are with me for an in-person interview. You have very likely heard the story of Gabby Petito, who set out in the summer of 2021 with her fiancé Brian Laundrie on a 4-month cross-country road trip adventure, but Brian returned home a few months later without Gabby, leading to a tragic ending that captured national headlines. We will talk about the story, but that won't be the main focus today. If you don't know the story, or if you do and you want to learn more about it, you can watch the 3-part docuseries on Netflix called American Murder, Gabby Petito, starting today, Monday, February 17th, the same day that this interview is airing for the first time. I'm honored and privileged today to speak with Nichole and Jim Schmidt, who are Gabby's mom and bonus dad. As all of you know, this is a grief podcast, and today's primary focus will be their grief and their family's grief, as we honor Gabby's life and the foundation in her name. The Gabby Petito Foundation was started to address the needs of organizations that support locating missing persons and to provide aid to organizations that assist survivors of domestic violence through education, awareness, and prevention strategies. As you know, my goal at Our Dead Dads is to normalize talking about grief, loss, and trauma, which are topics that are not easy for most of us to talk about, but they are also topics that everybody should be discussing more. Not only discussing them, but not feeling like they're taboo topics. Time may not heal all wounds, but keeping everything bottled up inside does not heal any of them. Together, we are building a community for others to have a safe space to talk about their stories and their feelings, and for anyone who may not yet be ready to talk, just to listen to others and know that no one is alone in this path. That is why I say we are a community, and I'm so happy to have you here. If you have a story of grief and loss to share, you might want to be considered as a future guest on Our Dead Dads. Go to ourdeaddads.com, go to the Contact Us link, and then select Be a Guest, fill out the form, send it in, and you just might be able to tell your story and carry on this mission of helping ourselves and so many others. Thank you for being patient, and without further delay, it's time to meet Niki and Jim. Please enjoy the show and stick around for the end when I'll tell you about next week's episode. Hey guys!
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Today is Groundhog's Day, and we're here for some fun. Hopefully, we're going to talk about some really intense topics, but we're going to try to have a little bit of fun along the way. You guys are the show's first in-person interview, and I'm so happy to have you here. Really glad and grateful to have gotten to get to know you guys over the last few months. Proud to call you guys friends, and thrilled that you're willing to be part of the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad we could be here because in person is just so much more fun. And I love your show, and I've been listening to you now, and it really helps to know that there's other people out there who are going through the same kind of things as us, and we know we're not alone, and hope that our story inspires other people the same way.
I definitely hope so. It's horrible beyond description that anybody has to go through this, but it really is great to know that there's a community out there. And when, like, as you guys said, being able to tell your story is going to be helpful for so many people. I know that it already has, and we'll talk about this during the interview. You guys have been doing so much work with the foundation over the last 3+ years. You guys are helping so many people. I know that because you've told me the stories. I hear about them, the difference that you guys are making, and I'm glad that we can finally bring this to the podcast. Let's see what other kind of a difference we can make.
Absolutely. Excited.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. We're not going to focus so much on the story. We will talk about the story. We'll talk about some of what happened. that isn't what I want today's focus to be. I want to know, to start, I want to know about Gabby. She was, from everything you guys have told me, she was an absolute ball of fire. She was a ball of light and life and love, and just had an impact from minute one, and she just did not stop. So let's talk about Gabby.
Yeah, she came into the world ready to go. She wanted to run and play and laugh and dance and just all the fun things that I wish we all could do more of.
Right.
She started that very early on. And you could see it when you watch her videos. You could see her light. And I'm just so happy that we have all that footage, because I think that a lot of people don't have that. So I'm very grateful for that.
Is that something that you guys made a point to do, is a lot of pictures and videos when she was young?
I think it was just, how technology was evolving at the time. So everybody had camcorders.
Sure.
And so everybody was, especially her father, who took a lot of the video footage.
A lot of home video.
Yeah.
And a lot of pictures. And Gabby was obviously the first grandchild. So Nikki's parents were divorced. So there was parents on both sides. So it was always tons of pictures and videos on both sides. And I think that still kind of evolved with all of our children that we have now since.
And as Gabby was growing, and she was born in 99, right?
Okay.
So the age of selfies began. Social media really started getting big. She grew with that. So
slide phones, right? She had a slide
right.
She had all the different phones. Yeah. So it was just kind of the way she grew up with the technology, and taking video and pictures of yourself was a thing. So we didn't have that when we were kids, but I'm glad she did that and she embraced that.
Now, she was not the only child. So, Nikki, you guys were not together then. Jim, you are her stepdad. We'd like to say her bonus dad.
Yep.
Nikki, you and Joe had Gabby, and then you guys were together until she was about 6 months old?
Correct.
Okay, and then I think Joe met Tara, and then you met Jim.
Yep.
And so basically, Gabby grew up with 4 parents. So that's all she ever remembered.
From the time she was 1 year old, Tara came into her life, and then by the time she was 2, Jim came into her life. So she's always had 4 parents.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly, she was not an only child. She had a lot more siblings.
Yeah, Gabby was the oldest of 6. Okay. We have 3 children together, and Joe and Tara have 2 children together.
Okay.
And Gabby was just... She wasn't the best big sister when she was younger, but she grew into that role. And she really enjoyed being the big sister. And her siblings adore her. They miss her so much, but they had such a great relationship.
That's amazing. I can say, as the oldest of 7, who really is the best big sibling when we're that young? I have 1 full brother, and I have 5 half siblings. And they were just always around. So I wasn't really thinking of it as trying to be a role model, trying to be the best big brother I could be. We're all being kids. We didn't think of it. And I imagine when she was really young, probably what she was thinking. And then,
well, I think it was more of like she was the baby for a couple of years there, and then her brother came in, and she was like, "Wait a second, I'm not the center of attention anymore.
I'm not the only kid."
So but
it changed as she got older. Her brothers and sisters got older, and all of a sudden they started having common interests in things. And like typical brothers and sisters, sometimes you're going to go to each other before you go to your parents.
Of course.
And so there was a little bit of that went on too, and you like to see that. You like to see that camaraderie between siblings.
It was either that, or she would tattle on, or they would tattle on each
other.
Or
they would tattle on each other, to save face for the other.
But definitely a good big sister when it came down to it. Yeah, but she would protect them at all costs, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular examples that you can think of that you're fond of that may have happened?
Yeah, I knew there was her closest sibling to her, TJ, or oldest son.
Okay.
He had started dating a girl at some point. I think it was like in junior high or something. And Gabby was like very protective of him over that. Like, just watching over, make sure she doesn't do this, and she shouldn't be like that, or you shouldn't say that. Like, just kind of watching over like her little brother, like
making sure nobody's gonna hurt them.
Yeah, and it was like it wasn't anything bad or anything crazy, but just like. She just like had her guard up because that was her brother.
Yeah. This is my brother. You hurt him. I'll kick your ass.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had that little side to her that was like, she'll stick up for someone in situations when something's wrong is being done to somebody. She will stick up for them. So she was a little spitfire that way.
Definitely. I think we can all relate to that a little bit. What was Gabby like as a kid?
Gosh, Gabby was a fun kid. She, again, loved to dance, even though she was not the best dancer in her adult years. She had no rhythm, but loved to dance and play and laugh and just run and ride her. She learned how to ride her bike very young.
Okay.
Ready to go. Like, she was just always running, and we were just growing with her. I mean, we were young parents. We had no idea what we were doing, so we had a good time. We had fun with her.
I would say she was very determined. So
that's a good word.
When she had an idea, and her creativity was second to none. So when she got a thought or an idea, she was so determined to, like, if it was something she had to convince us that she wanted to do. Sometimes I think it was convincing herself more. But whether it was an art project or whatever it was, like, when she put her mind on something and then she did it,
she was going to make it happen.
She made it happen, and she did an amazing job with it. And she was so creative. It's amazing to watch talent like that in such young lives, because I didn't have a lot of that creativity growing up. So to see other kids just have that natural ability was really something amazing to see.
She excelled in art, and in high school, I think in 11th grade, she was allowed to be showcased in the senior art show because her piece was so well.
As a junior?
So well. Yes.
That's impressive.
She was just...
Ever since elementary school, her artwork was always in one of the art galleries, for the high school, for the junior high, for the elementary school.
Okay.
Every year, her artwork was always featured. She was just so talented.
Did she draw? Did she paint? What did she do?
Mostly draw.
Okay.
Mostly draw. She was very much, I would say, an illustrator. She could sit and do the most intricate drawings. But she dabbled in painting. She used to paint on clothing and everything. Like,
really?
Yeah, she was just so many things. Like, she was just talented in everything she did looked beautiful.
The only thing she didn't like was pottery.
Yeah.
Because she thought it was gross.
Yeah.
She didn't like.
She didn't want to get her hands dirty.
She didn't like to get play and didn't enjoy that.
It was too much.
But anything else?
Maybe that's why she didn't paint as much. She didn't want to get her hands
dirty. I think so. I think you're onto something there.
When she was coloring, how would she color? Was it colored pencils or
a little bit of everything?
A little bit of everything.
She loved markers, like high-end, like illustration markers.
Okay.
Because she could really do the details and it wouldn't bleed. If anybody cares about art out there.
We're not talking like the typical like colored marker. We're talking like the high-end like an artist set.
Like, I'm talking, you're coming home from the store. How much did you spend on a marker? Like, you got to understand. You got to have the right.
Each one can be $5 to $10 for one marker. Yeah.
When you need a tool, you don't buy the cheap one, right? Like, I hear you. As long as it makes them happy and.
Right. You better do something good with this.
I better see a Picasso come out of it.
Right. It'll pay dividends, and you hope when she's gonna do that kind of work that she'll get the scholarship, and you have all these vivid dreams when they're a kid, like, oh yeah, they're gonna be known all over the world for their work. Incredible. $5 to $10 a marker. Wow. I'm glad I never got into that. I probably would have gotten laughs from my parents.
Like the real art stores.
That would be on the cheap end. They were more. And some pencils.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? When someone's that talented and they're actually using the tools,
sure,
then it's worth it.
It's worth it.
And you take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Absolutely. As she was growing up, when she was a teenager, did she have aspirations of what she wanted to do in life?
She came to me, I think it was around 10th grade, and said that she wanted to be an art therapist.
Okay, tell me about what an art therapist would do.
So an art therapist would work with anyone who would go to therapy typically, but they would use art as a way to communicate. So getting somebody to open up through art might be having them sit down and have them draw, and while they're drawing, you can have conversations with them and they open up a little more. I know a lot of therapists use it with kids and children because it's a way to get kids to just connect and open up, and they're concentrating on the drawing and then they're talking to you. So it opens up lines of communication. So art therapy is a great way to get people to open up.
Now, when somebody is participating in art therapy, are they always drawing? Like, for example, the first thing that I thought of was you see on TV when somebody shows you an ink blot and says, what do you see here?
No, they're actually creating the art
They're
themselves.
creating the
art. So they might be building with Legos. They might be drawing. They might be painting. They might be, I don't know, knitting. Any kind of form of like creative art.
They're finding a mode of expression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. How did she want to do that? It's obviously being an artist is not a surprise, but then art therapy, it sounds like she not only had a passion for art, but also for helping others.
I think that maybe in school they were talking about art careers and the different things you can do, because a lot of people will tell you art is art. What are you going to do with that, you know?
Sure.
So I think that she had learned about different careers and saw art therapy as a nice way to earn a living but also help others with her art.
Yeah.
So she can have a job which doesn't feel like a job because you're actually an artist too. So I mean, it could be fun and creative, and yeah, that's where the passion came in.
So then she graduates high school in
2017.
Let's say 20. Okay, and then what came after that?
Well, she went to a couple different schools and to look at schools, and the one she really wanted to go to turned her down, believe it or not. They looked at her portfolio. I guess it's a school that's hard to get into, and unfortunately she did not get in. There was another school she was considering but decided that she was going to wait, and she had an opportunity to move down to North Carolina, which she did, and stayed there for about a year and a half. Worked, had very much learned independence, learned adulting, I would say, and then ended up coming back home after that.
It's good that she learned adulting. I mean, I'm 49 and I still haven't really learned how to
Most
adult.
of us haven't.
Right. So she was ahead of the curve for sure.
Yeah.
So she spent about a year and a half down there, and then she came back, and then what happened after that?
She was home for a little while, and
she was working.
Yeah, she was just working at this awesome smoothie place, and it was like a health food store, and she loved it. She loved making people coffee and smoothies, and let me tell you, whatever she did, she put 1,000,000% into it.
Yeah.
So if you were going to get a cup of coffee from her or an acai bowl or something, it was going to look beautiful and it was going to be perfect.
It wasn't just coffee; it was an experience.
Yeah, she made sure that you were getting the best. So she really cared about everything she did. And I guess ran into Brian at some point during 2018. I guess it was the summer of 2018.
Okay.
And then...
So this is after graduation.
Way after graduation, after North Carolina and home. And then they were friends in high school, so I guess they sparked up a conversation and decided to start hanging out.
Okay.
And it evolved into dating.
Okay.
And it evolved into Brian asking her if she wanted to move down to Florida with him because his parents already had a house in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I take it they moved down to Florida?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Did they move in with his parents? Did they have their own place?
So what they did was they moved in to his parents' house with his sister was also there. The parents were still in New York. And I know this is all confusing and it's a lot of information, but really, basically, the parents had ended up coming down. They also had a condo, which Brian and Gabby ended up moving into for a little while. Gabby fixed up the condo. They worked on it together, and then their father sold that, and they moved back into the house.
Okay.
Sister moved out. Parents moved in. That's when parents and Gabby and Brian all lived together.
Right. Yeah, I guess we probably should give a little bit of backstory. So you were all originally from New York.
Correct.
That's correct.
Everybody. Yeah.
Everybody. Which is another thing that I love about the story, because Kim and I are also originally from Long Island.
Not just New York, Long Island.
Not just New York, Long Island. We were all Long Island. I think we were all, everybody was Suffolk County, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you move 1,200 miles away from home to meet people that were right around the corner practically.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. All right, so Gabby and Brian have moved down to Florida.
Yeah.
So this is about 2020?
It was 20...
Or 2021?
I always get confused with the dates. It was 2019, I believe.
2019, okay.
Yeah.
And because it was COVID happened. When they moved down there, it wasn't too much longer later that COVID happened.
Okay, so it was probably late 2019 when they moved down.
Yes.
And then shortly after that.
Yeah, that was terrible because I was supposed to go visit her, and then I ended up not being able to do that because of COVID. People weren't flying. And
right.
So that stinks. I was really upset about that because I wanted to go see where she was living. And
of course.
You know.
Got to check on your baby.
Check on her, see how she's doing. Although she seemed fairly happy.
Okay.
COVID was annoying her. I think she was home for a while. At some point, she got a job at Taco Bell.
Okay.
And loved it. Again, put 1,000% into everything. You were going to get the best taco at Taco Bell you ever had. Best burrito. You know, it looked beautiful. Probably tasted perfect. She loved saying, have a taco-tastic day. Like that was her favorite thing to say.
Okay.
So she was like really digging it. She met a friend there, and I guess now we find out later on that like Brian didn't like the friend very much, so she ended up leaving Taco Bell at some point.
Was it a male friend, female friend?
Female. It was female.
Okay.
So I don't know how that transpired exactly, but I'm pretty sure now I realize that Brian probably didn't really want her to hang out with this person or these people at Taco Bell. So she ended up leaving Taco Bell and getting a job at the same store that Brian worked at.
Where was that?
That was at Publix. It's a grocery store in Florida.
Okay.
Some people might not know that. That's why.
Right. No, yeah. We're all big fans of Publix now. But yeah, Publix is it's pretty much like the main supermarket in Florida, I think.
So. Yeah, they pretty much taken over everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was a pharmacy tech. She was first had to train, and then she became a pharmacy tech there.
Okay.
And she was liking that too. Like I said, everything she did, she put 110%
She put everything into it.
I remember asking her, how is it dealing with people? And she said, well, it's great, except for this one lady who got mad at me for not pronouncing her name correctly. And she was able to laugh about it because it's just so ridiculous. But I'm like, well, that's, customers for you. But yeah, she was fine. I think she was just at that point trying to save up money because they had started a conversation about taking a road trip across country. So, and just to remind people, they had taken a previous quick road trip in her car all the way to California in 2019. That was like when they started dating. It was like a whim. They went, came back, moved to Florida. Now, a couple of years later, they're talking about this road trip.
Okay.
So,
how long were they gone on that road trip?
Oh, maybe 2 months. I don't even know if it was that long.
No, I don't know. I don't think
it was just
long.
really, they like zipped over to California and Oregon, came back.
Right.
Yeah.
They were ready to go. Or at least she was ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've got some traveling under the belts and then moved down to Florida, and now we're in the middle of COVID. All right. So then where do we go from here? When does the conversation about this 4-month across the country road trip happen?
I feel like late 2020 was when they were really getting information about how to do it. They needed to buy the van. They planned it all out. They bought a van. They knew they had to take time to fix up the van. She had a drawing already, what she wanted it to look like. She was really excited.
Right.
I don't think it was supposed to happen so soon. I think she knew it was going to take a couple years to get the van ready, save money, do all that. But it seemed like, so that was 2020 into 2021. It was like all of a sudden, we're going to leave in June. We have a date. So it came about really quickly. And I was like, already? I thought you were taking your time.
What happened to a couple of years?
So, it just happened so fast. And they were like, okay, well, your brother's graduating. If you're leaving in June, you need to come up here first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, you need to be here for the graduation.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what she did. They came up. They spent a couple of weeks up in Blue Point, Long Island.
Okay.
And stayed at the house and just, I guess, got everything ready and set and had the trip planned out, washed all the clothes, made sure everything was ready to go. And that was, then it took off, was it August? Let me see, July. I'm trying to go back. What was the date?
July
2nd. I believe it was July 2nd was when they left Long Island.
So pretty quickly after graduation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the trip a little bit. So they leave July 2nd, and where are they off to?
So she had mapped out cross-country specific points on where they wanted to stop and see different,
different points of interest and parks. Yeah. So the first stop, I believe, was in the west end of Kansas. There was like a canyon park there that they went to go look at. From there, they went to Colorado Springs. And then from there, they went into Utah, and they spent quite a bit of time in Utah at the different parks like Zion and a few other places there before eventually heading to Wyoming.
Okay.
Ultimate goal was to kind of go up and into Yellowstone and then make their way across the Pacific Northwest, visit a family friend of ours.
They wanted to end in Portland, Oregon around Halloween.
Around Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then make their way back.
Make their way back. Yeah. Probably would have been sometime in November-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. That didn't quite happen, though.
No.
What did happen?
Well, we all know August 12th. Anybody who's followed the case, if you haven't, August 12th, they were stopped by police in Moab, Utah, and there had been an altercation that a witness had called 911 and saw, his words were, I saw the male slapping the female. Okay. So there was clearly physical violence. But, we always talk about this. We don't know exactly what got construed from the 911 call to the police officers. However, Gabby was going to be given a citation. She was the, how do they word it, dominant aggressor? The dominant aggressor, according to them. And they said they were going to let it go. They should just separate for the night. Brian goes into a hotel room that is paid for by domestic violence funds. Gabby's told to go take the van for the night and go sleep somewhere, take a shower. It was hard to watch. And of course, we didn't watch it until everybody else did, the rest of the world.
Right.
But, yeah. So that day, we spoke to Gabby, and everything was cool in her book. After she kind of was upset about an argument, she said it was all her fault because she was having a bad day, bad morning, and kind of blew it off.
Downplayed
it.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, you did not see the Moab video until the rest of us saw it.
Correct.
Did she tell you that there was the involvement with the police? Did she tell you that they were pulled over?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that she was just going to get... They were just going to get a ticket, a citation of some sort.
Okay.
Well, she was specifically because she was the aggressor. But to be nice, they decided to just let her go.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened after Moab?
So Moab happens. I'm, of course, talking to her every day because I want to make sure that they are okay.
Right.
They're young.
Yeah.
They're spending 24 hours a day together in a van.
And they're 2,000 miles away.
They're far. Something has already happened. There's been some sort of incident. I only know what I know from my daughter's description of it.
Right.
And this happened. So they go up more further into Utah. They're in Salt Lake City. And then she tells me Brian's flying home for a few days. And I didn't know why. She said it was to remove their items out of a storage unit, put it back to the parents' house. I didn't understand that. Okay.
To save money.
She was really busy working on her YouTube video that everybody can go to, Nomadic Static. It's the only video up there. I think it now has well over 1 million views.
I think it's beyond that. I want to say it's like 7 million views.
Yeah.
And truly insane. I'm going to actually put the link to the Nomadic Static video on the show notes of this episode. So if anybody who hasn't seen it wants to see it, go to the show notes. You can watch it. And if you have already watched it and you want to see it again, just to kind of refresh yourself, it's really impressive because you guys have told me that she did. Well, obviously she recorded the video. I mean, I'm sure there were some times when Brian was holding the camera or was on a tripod, but she did all of the editing.
All of it.
This video was truly an example of her artistic abilities.
Yeah, she worked tirelessly on it. She got frustrated. She would call me and be like, I need help with this. She would be screaming at her computer and I'd be like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know what it looked like. She didn't want to show me any of it. She didn't want my critique until she was done with it. So she sent it to me and I, of course, had to say something about it. I said, I want you to put like where you are in some of the spots because I didn't know where you were.
Right.
And she was like, no, it's fine the way it is. She argued with me on that one. But she worked so hard on that. And I think that we can look back now and see that Brian was not caring about it so much. He kind of was like, it's not a big deal. He was mad at her for doing it, thinking it was stupid. And I feel bad that she was being belittled for something that she was really enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that she was not being supported at all on this project. I mean, this was maybe not her, I don't know if it was like her life's number one passion, but this was clearly something that she was passionate about. Yeah. And she was not being supported by the person that she loves, the person that she's in a relationship with. And I'm sure that had to have an impact.
Yeah. And looking back, like, she was frustrated beyond anything that I'd ever seen. So I think that frustration I now know stems from the, emotional abuse or whatever else was going on that we now know was probably happening that whole time. And that was probably making her act out in this way of just being so frustrated because nobody's helping her. She's doing this all on her own and not supported. So,
but it wasn't necessarily that she was frustrated because the video and the editing was giving her a hard time. She was frustrated because of the situation.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to the best of your abilities that you guys were able to determine.
Yeah.
Okay, we moved to the end of August.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So she was in Salt Lake City for a few days. Brian ended up flying back. Okay. They are heading up into the Tetons, which I had never heard of. And she called me and she was telling me about the Tetons. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had to look it up. I had to go to Google and be like, Tetons?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, this looks beautiful.
Right.
And I know Jim had the All Trails app, so he was able to kind of see where they were physically.
Yeah, she shared all of her camping and hiking apps because she knew that myself and our son TJ enjoyed that. And it was always like, we've been to these places. I think you guys would like them and check it out. So I could see the different trails that she had gone on in Colorado, Utah, and then when she was up in Wyoming around Jenny Lake and a lot of those key places around there. So I was aware of it. I've known about that area. That was always one of those bucket list places I wanted to go.
Right.
And to see her there and doing it was amazing.
And that's a great app. I actually used that app when we were in Texas because we did a lot of hiking. We didn't get to do as much camping as we wanted to, but we went into some different parks and some hiking. So glad that you were able to use that app and find out exactly where she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she would leave like little reviews on different parks and stuff because other users, I guess that's how that worked. I don't know.
Yeah. Leave her fingerprints. I was here.
Yeah, so that was really cool that she had something that we follow the trail.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they were there for I guess a few days, and I didn't know exactly where they were camping.
Okay.
But I'm trying to remember, like it was really a fuzzy time. I knew that they were in the Tetons, and then August 27th, I received texts from her phone.
Okay.
They were the last texts from. I don't believe they were from her.
Right.
Now the timeline is a little bit skewed.
Right.
They could have been from her, and then after that she was taken.
Yep.
Or it could have. I don't believe they were from her just because of the way they sound and the fact that it has emojis, and she didn't text me with emojis ever.
Okay.
So it was around that time though that she was murdered. So it could have been before or after, but so that was
August 27th.
the evening of August 27th.
Okay.
And so then days are going by, I'm texting her. And by like August 30th, I get another text from her phone. It says, "Can you tell Stan to stop calling? We're in a place with no signal."
Who's Stan?
Stan is Gabby's grandfather. Now, she would never refer to him as Stan. So I did question at the time, but in my mind, I thought maybe Brian texted it for her and she's driving. That was the first thing I thought of.
Sure.
But I did think it was weird that she used Stan instead of Grandpa.
Right.
And that was the very last text that came to my phone.
We were heading to Yosemite. Was one of the texts.
Yes, it said we're in Yosemite. Yeah. We have no.
They
signal.
were heading to Yosemite.
No signal.
Yeah. So then I was like, wait a second.
Like that doesn't make sense.
They were going to Yellowstone, but there was fires. So I'm like, maybe they had to detour and do something different. But then they would have been heading towards the fires.
Yeah.
And Yosemite is all the way over here.
Right.
It's like there's no way you're making it in that time frame. It just wasn't adding up.
It was an intentional text to throw us off.
Right.
The trail, the scent of anything weird happening. So that was that. And then, by September 8th, 9th, I was texting Joe, "Have you heard from Gabby?"
Yeah.
He said no. And I was getting concerned. Everybody was like, they're probably just someplace with no signal. And I'm like, yeah, but it's been a long time.
It's been like 10, 11 days.
Yeah. And there's no activity on social media, which is the whole point of this trip.
Right.
So I'm like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I started making phone calls down to Northport Police, the Parks Police out in Utah and Wyoming. And everybody was, you have to do it where they live. And nobody wanted to report her missing. So finally got her reported on September 11th, believe it or not. That day is a different date for me now. But so this amazing detective, Tracy Barry in Suffolk County Police Department, she got it right. She reported her missing. She called Northport. She basically was like, you guys need to do something. Something's not right here.
Yeah.
And they went to the house. And that's when, we found out the van was at the house with Brian and Gabby was not with him. So we were panicked at that point.
Yeah.
I would say it was shock. He was camping with TJ. He had to come home. Joe and Tara in Florida, they started freaking out. I made posters, got it on Facebook. I mean, it was like go time. As soon as I found out that he was home without her, I was all over the Facebook. And within 24 hours, we had the FBI calling us.
Do you know... Either did you find out then or do you know now how long he was home before you found out that he was home?
We found out that night that he was home September 1st.
10 days he was home?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, that's why everything kicked into high gear immediately.
Yeah, and a lot of this information, I know you mentioned the documentary, the Netflix doc in the beginning. A lot of this information is reiterated through that documentary because it is our story. Right. Yeah.
So... the FBI is getting involved. What transpires after that?
Chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos. I mean, it was nonstop. We didn't sleep. We didn't eat. We were on the news constantly. Every day information was changing. And He flew out to Wyoming. Jim flew out to Wyoming, and Joe and Tara stayed in Florida. I stayed home in New York. We kind of wanted to make that like triangular.
Yeah, you've got three corners.
We're everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Just felt that we had to have
presence everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think flying out to Wyoming was to let them know, because it was just something telling me, from what I could tell from the apps, from the last text messages, something was telling me that's where we had to start looking.
Yeah.
And so I worked as a first responder for now 25 plus years. And I'm like, I don't know what we're going to come across out there. I don't know what the circumstances are going to be, but that's not something mom or even her dad, stepmom, or anybody should have to experience. Right. I've done this. I've got this. I can speak the language. Let me try to get out there, make the connections, and let them know the family is here and we're here to support and do whatever was needed. And so it was like Nichole said, just trying to like triangulate any possible area.
And we knew that was the best starting point, if anything, because that was her last location.
Right.
And once the FBI got involved, they figured it out pretty quickly. That was her last location. So it went really fast from there. So that was September 11th. And then by September 19th was when the FBI found her.
Okay.
So it felt like an eternity, but, you know, we were expecting that call, obviously. Yeah. It was just the worst day of my life. I mean, there's been a lot of worse days, but that phone call was definitely the worst day. It was probably worse for Jim because he's the one that had to identify her, and he had to make the call to us. He does talk about that in the documentary. It's probably better to visually see him speak about that too. But yeah, from that moment on, we were like, now what do we do?
Yeah. And this is where we get into the grief portion of this conversation. Jim, as a first responder, did that prepare you for what you saw?
So I thought so.
At the time?
At the time.
Okay.
I can handle this. I've seen some of the worst things anybody could ever have to see. I've been in some really high stress situations. Yeah. Unfortunately, in our career, we are not taught very well how to deal with it. We're taught how to bury it down, use dark humor, and move on. Yeah. Because there's going to be another one, and not to dwell on it. And so the things that I've seen in my life and experienced and my training, I said, I have it. There's nothing that I'm going to come across out there that
you haven't seen before, that you can't handle.
I got it.
Yeah.
And the moment that I had to identify her, that all changed. That moment changed not only losing our daughter, but it reshaped our family, it reshaped my career, and my whole being, my whole existence up until that point. Father and a first responder.
Yeah, I would imagine it would.
And that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That is the worst thing I've ever experienced.
Did you identify her in person?
No. So it was, thank God, no. Okay. And I spent a lot of time trying to convince some family that they didn't want to see it.
Okay.
But right around the time that Gabby was missing, there was another girl out there that was missing as well. Kind of fit the description of Gabby. So Gabby had been out in the wild now for almost a month.
Yep.
And so you can imagine the condition of her was not the best.
Yeah.
So when they tell you that they found remains consistent with what may be your daughter, they won't know until they do, a forensic autopsy and can make a determination, DNA, dental records.
Right.
But, we're not sure, but you have to tell your family, because there was a news camera flying overhead and we want them to know before it's on the 5 o'clock news type of thing.
Right.
So I said, you have to give me something. I have to be sure.
Yep.
I said, is there anything from the scene? And so the FBI agent that was there was like, hold on.
Clothing, jewelry, anything.
And he's like, give me a second.
Okay.
And he's like, they're sending me pictures from the scene. And so he basically immediately got the pictures back. And I won't go into detail of the pictures, but basically through clothing and everything else, I was able to determine that it was her at that point. I mean, I fell to the ground, broke down, crying. And they were like, well, we're going to make the call for you. And I was like, no, that's my job. When I said, I'm heading out here, I said, no matter what, I'm not coming home until I bring our daughter home.
Yeah.
And I said, this is the task that I took on, and I'm going to make that call. And I did. And I made sure we got everybody on the phone, and we did a conference call.
With the whole family.
With the whole family made that call.
And even though I think a lot of us as parents, we just deep down knew. We knew that it wasn't going to be good. It wasn't going to be a good ending. But you still, even after getting the call, you don't expect that. And it just takes the breath away from you. It's like the worst thing you could ever hear is losing your child. Yeah. And then...
We were holding out hope. Yeah. Maybe she's a Jane Doe in a hospital somewhere.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe there's that little chance.
Maybe she got picked up,
she was injured. She's in a hospital. She lost her memory, something.
You know, there's always that hope, that glimmer. And that glimmer, it diminished real quick as soon as that phone call happened, as soon as they told us.
Even what was worse than that for me was having to tell my kids, because we were just the parents on the phone. And then I had to reiterate that to my kids. And that was terrible. Yeah, that sucked.
And I wasn't there. Yeah. I couldn't hold her. I couldn't comfort her. Couldn't comfort my children, and I felt very alone at that point, and I felt helpless because I'm a helper. My job was out there at that time to do what I can to help find her, but I wanted to reach through the phone and help them, and I couldn't.
But then he didn't want to leave without her remains. Okay. He's like, I'm not coming home until I bring her remains home to you guys. So we ended up not being able to do that, and we talked him into coming home because the forensic pathologist, all the testing they had to do, it could take weeks.
Right.
So he came home, we had her service, and we were planning on cremation because, I have her with me all the time.
Right.
And she was a traveler, so I would never put her in the ground because she would be so mad at me for that.
Right.
But yeah, so we did all that, and then we had all that shit happen with Brian and the laundries, and Brian goes missing, and it was like every day it was something new. And in the midst of all that, we started a foundation.
Yeah.
Like right away, which talk about grieving, I think that helped us through the grieving.
So did you really even allow yourselves time to grieve before you started the foundation?
Not at all.
No. Starting the foundation essentially was your grief.
I think so.
We started seeing social worker therapist immediately through the crime victim compensation, stuff like that. So we got our kids in right away. Sure. We were starting to see somebody, but we were still immediately all in on the foundation.
Something just told me. I was starting to see people in the news comment on the video from Moab. Mm-hmm. I was starting to see experts come out. I was starting to see, people comment on the fact that all missing persons don't get the same attention. I'm like, all this stuff is happening all around us because of our daughter's story.
People sending messages through the same Facebook pages we had to find her.
Yeah.
People sending messages to us saying, I was in the same situation as her. I didn't realize how much danger I was potentially in. I'm now out. I got help because of your daughter. Yeah. And when you see stuff like that, you can't help but think that
you're making a difference.
Maybe we have to do something here.
Yeah, and I literally visualized it in my head. I said, Gabby Petito Foundation. That simple. We're going to help people. So I called the other parents and I said, you guys want to do this? And they were like, oh, okay, right now?
Right.
Yes, we're doing this right now. And I think that did help us all. I think in a way, kind of pivoting to helping others, and so Gabby's death wasn't in vain.
Right.
That really, and we still have days, and everybody's entitled to their days where you don't want to do something, you don't want to worry about helping people, you're just in your grief.
Of course.
And that is okay. I want to tell everybody that's okay if you are in your grief and you just need that. But I mean, it just helps. I know for me, I'll speak for myself, it helps me. I love it, and I love helping people as much as I can.
Yeah. How do you even begin to, aside from starting a foundation, when it comes down to it, when you're not at work, when you're not dealing with the foundation, when you're not dealing with contributions or fundraisers or anything like that, it's you guys in your house, alone with each other, alone with your thoughts. How do you even begin to process losing a child?
It's day by day. It's different. I have moments where I break down.
Yeah.
And that's normal, I'm assuming. So I have to do that sometimes. And my kids, they're kind of quiet about it. My youngest, she's more open about it. She loves to talk about Gabby. She loves to say she's had a dream about her.
Yeah.
I think being young maybe was helpful in that aspect. The teenager, and then my son's 21. He's not dealing with it. very quiet, but I can't force him to do anything. My 16-year-old, she sees a therapist. Again, I don't force her to talk to me. She seems happy when she talks about her sister. Every once in a while she brings her up, or she'll draw a picture, and we're all kind of in our own way dealing with it, but also trying to be normal at the same time.
Of course.
Normal life is happening.
We try to make sure too that we focus our time and energy on them as well.
Right.
That it's not all about Gabby, who's no longer with us, who's still very important to us. We hold her in our heart, and she's the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
But each one of our kids are special to us in their own way, and still finding that time to do things with them that they love and enjoy. And really, I think for me, from going from a career that was working 24-hour shifts and just nonstop and being crazy and working all these crazy hours, to coming home and being so tired you just want to pass out some days, to now that I'm home and I'm at a regular 9-to-5 job, enjoying those small moments with them. Those small moments like just having dinner,
right? Even
if we're eating 5 different things because the kids are picky.
Sure.
We're sitting at the table, we're going to go swim,
we're
going to sit on the TV, and we're going to watch some mindless TV.
Right.
And appreciating those small moments, because sometimes when you look back on it, those small moments are some of the biggest moments in your life.
Yeah.
And making sure that you're present and you're with them at that moment. And I think that's something that we really kind of pay attention to now.
Yeah, we just took them on a cruise, and it was just so much fun as a family to do that together. Yeah. We don't get to do that often because it was always so expensive with all of us.
Right.
So, it's not easy traveling with 6.
No, not at all.
We don't vacation often, but when we do, we try to go big. So
right. Try to make the most out of it.
Yeah.
Let's back up a little bit. Jim, you mentioned that now you're working a 9-to-5, so that means you are no longer a paramedic.
Yeah. So up in New York, I was a captain in a career fire department. I was a former fire chief in my volunteer fire department. I worked as a training instructor. I actually worked part-time in a firehouse as well, and I was doing that for about 22 years.
Yeah.
And I actually had re-injured an old knee injury right about the time everything happened with Gabby, and I had a surgery. I ended up with blood clots. I almost died after Gabby. I ended up in the hospital.
It was actually really scary.
It was pretty bad. I ended up with a pulmonary embolism that I thought I was done.
Yeah.
And so I was taken out of work additionally, and you can't keep a firefighter down. Like, we don't like to be sitting around. And so I kind of lied my way through that and got myself back to work.
Okay.
Probably really too
I think it's
quickly.
more denial more than lies.
Yeah.
So
I have an uncle and a cousin who are firefighters. My uncle is actually with Greenport. Well, I think he's retired at this point. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's retired. But my cousin is FDNY, so I get it.
They don't want to stop.
You just want to get back. You just want to get back, and thinking I was okay. And I was still going to see a counselor.
Okay.
But I still hadn't processed really what was going on. And we were in the midst of so much stuff going on at that point.
Yeah.
And I went back to work, and we just hit these like real busy spells at work. And then I quickly realized that I was no longer me. Like, I was a shell of who I used to be. I didn't feel confident in my abilities as a leader anymore to safely lead my firefighters and bring them home safe. One day we had a tough day, and I came home and I told Niki, I said, I think I'm done. She's like, what do you mean you're done? I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, what do you mean you can't do this? This is like your life. This is what you like lived for since you were a kid.
Right.
I said, no. I said, I lost it. I don't have it anymore.
It's over.
I don't know what to do, because this is all I've ever done, is be a firefighter and bang nails on the side, you know.
I've never seen him like without that confidence, because everything he did was based on his career as a fireman. So it was weird to hear him say that.
Right.
But
so,
I think there's things in our life that happen that changes you.
Yeah.
It literally rewires your brain. So the PTSD and the trauma, it changed him.
Yeah.
Quickly.
And I think I didn't do a good job in the 20 plus years of handling that stuff career-wise, and then thinking that you're tougher than all of that.
Right.
And then that kind of biting you in the ass when now you're dealing with it with your own family and you're seeing your own child. So she said, okay, well, what do we got to do? And our house was being inundated still at that time, where the kids couldn't go outside because news cameras were camping out on our front lawn still.
Yeah.
People were hiding in our neighbors' bushes trying to take pictures. Kids couldn't go outside.
Really strange experience because I didn't know what their goal was in filming the house.
Right.
What are you doing? This is our private residence.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on here that...
I guess maybe nobody knows, but maybe they weren't necessarily filming the house as much as just trying to film anything.
They were trying to get
waiting,
anything.
Yeah, waiting to get you guys or...
The kids mostly, I think, because we shielded them so much.
Right.
So I started looking around, and we have a lot of family down here in Florida. We found a job opportunity down here in the Tampa area.
Yeah.
I said, oh, I'm going to put in for it. Still with the fire service. It's just
right.
not responding on. I wasn't quite ready to let go, but I knew I couldn't be on the street anymore. And so I put in for it, and I said, they offered me the job. And so we said, all right.
But we talked about it as a family, and I said, are you sure? And the kids were like, yeah, we want to move. And well, now, fast forward, they're like, we miss our friends, and we're mad that we moved.
Sure.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, and that's where we've been for the last 3 years. And I would say that I've grown a lot in the 3 years. I think we've grown a lot in the last 3 years.
We met some amazing people.
Thank you.
Like
Nick. Thank you.
I would say I call them allies. You know, we've met a lot of allies that really help us. We help each other. It's always people that are kind of on the same page, and it's just, you know, different outlook on life. I'm trying to just live every day to the fullest because that's how Gabby lived.
Yeah.
And I actually found for the first time a therapist who I could connect with, which I never really had. It's not easy for a first responder to go to a therapist, for one.
Right.
There's always the fear of your job, retribution, demotions, people thinking you're crazy or whatever it is. You're thinking you're weak. The therapist we have, she specializes in first responders and military.
Okay.
And so there was a day, not this past November, the November before, I was having a real bad weekend.
Yeah.
And I went in there on a Tuesday, spent 4 hours with her. She cleared a calendar for me.
Wow.
I didn't have to go in there and explain any of this stuff. I didn't have to do anything. And we just sat there and we worked through it. And I've been with her since, and she has gotten me through so much because she brings such a interesting perspective to it, and has finally got me to a point mentally where I still have my bad days.
Yeah.
But she has armed me with tools to overcome that.
To be able to deal with those bad days.
Absolutely. Letting you know that it's normal to have certain emotions. Yeah. It's normal to be happy. It's normal to be sad. It's normal to experience grief in a different way. It's okay to be angry. But how are you processing that? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah.
And she's armed me with those tools. And I'll tell you, for a long time with Gabby, when I closed my eyes, all I could picture was her laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Nightmares waking me up. My therapist has got me to the point, and through my own hard work, because it takes you too. When I close my eyes and I think of Gabby, it's no longer that day. I picture her the day that we taught her how to ride a two-wheel bike. And for me, that is just now those happy memories are what's back. And that's allowed me to now grow into the person to give her the support that she needs, especially with this foundation, because she takes on, her and Tara and Joe take on so much. And I'm now like, let me have it. What do you got? Let me take some of this off your plate. You need me with the kids? I got that. You need me with you? I got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your perspective, and this is something that I can personally relate to. And Niki, obviously this is no disrespect towards you at all, but from the male perspective, because men, when I was growing up, we were taught, and I'm sure, we were all about the same age. I was told, we don't talk about this stuff. We don't deal with this stuff.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. Rub
it's
some
tough,
dirt
Nancy.
on it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly. I was told more than once, let's leave this to the women. Let the women deal with this. And we were just told, you have to be big, strong men. You have to suck it up. You have to be tough. When we were kids, we were growing up, we were taught that the adults, our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, uncles, all the adults who are around, respect your elders. Yeah. So we think, all right, well, we have to respect them. If they're saying this, they must know what they're talking about. So when they say to ignore it, they say to move past it, and they say stop crying and don't think about sad things, get over it. That's what we do because that's what we're taught. We get to a point when we're adults, when you're faced with probably the most unimaginable situation that you or could ever be faced with, short of possibly losing each other, and you're not prepared for that.
No.
You're not...
You have not been equipped with the tools to show your emotions.
You
to
suppress
learn how to,
all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And nobody can hold any of that in.
Right.
Because what happens, even with something not tragic, sometimes it's just one little thing.
Yeah.
And then you explode.
Yep.
And then the consequences of that event can set off a domino effect of things in your life.
Yeah.
So no, it's not okay. It's okay to still be tough, still be a man.
Yeah.
Still be a leader and all the things you have to do, but also understanding that it's okay to have moments of vulnerability.
Right.
Which is a word us men don't really think about. You think vulnerable, you think weak.
Right.
That's what I thought.
That's exactly... you had that experience.
Yeah, I was teaching a class one day down here, and a couple of the female doctors were like, wow, it's really nice to see a man so vulnerable. Because I got a little emotional, which I do. It's our daughter we're talking about. And I came home and I told Nikki, and she was like, I'm like, am I weak? And she was like, no, it's a good thing, you moron. Like, like women actually like that stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to find that healthy outlet for you
right.
to be able to express that stuff, because you can't keep it in.
Right. That's an entirely different level of intensity to embrace that you're allowed to cry, that you're allowed to be upset, when for your entire life you were always told, don't.
Listen, like in my former profession out there, nobody wants to call 911 and we pull up and say,
of course,
oh my God, this is horrific. Let's have a good cry first before I help you and your house is burning to the ground.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about arming you with the tools necessary to be able to do your job.
Right.
And at the end of the day, go home and still be the person you need to be at home.
Yeah.
And when something gets to you, knowing when you need to seek help. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to not seek help.
Right.
And finding that healthy outlet. And a lot of times I think like there's such a negative stigma behind mental health, especially for men.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't find the right person to speak to. Yep. You're making a huge investment, and that's yourself.
Yes.
And your own health. And not having good mental health has so many other detrimental effects on your physical health that you need to really invest your time, your energy into that and finding that right person. And the first one might not be the right one, might not be the second one.
Right.
But don't give up. The third person might be there.
Trauma builds up in your body, and it creates a lot of physical ailments.
Yes.
And cancer is one of the most dominant ones. So if you don't deal with that shit, especially from like childhood trauma, you have to at some point face it. You have to face it because it's going to be good for you, good for your family. And, going through a tragedy like this, it wakes you up real fast.
Sure.
And then you're like, wait, there's all kinds of other shit coming out in my... Sorry for the cursing.
No,
I'm usually
please.
a truck driver.
You're totally fine. That's why we have explicit content included in the episode.
Yeah,
You're allowed to say what you want.
I'm just really passionate about people being open and honest with themselves and coming out and realizing, I need to fix this for me. And I'm proud of him for that, because he came a long way. Because for years he bottled it up, like just years and years. And he's really changed in that way where he's self-aware. And I think that's really important, is to be self-aware.
Oftentimes others around you see it long before you see it.
Yes. It happened with me. Kim saw it. I thought I was fine. Kim's like, you need to talk to somebody. Yeah. And I can say, as men, we're grateful for the wives that we have, because they help us. They push us in a better direction. And they don't break us down. They don't say, the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah. Like, I need you, and you are doing nothing useful for me. You're not saying
we have like an empathetic nature.
Of course.
As women in general. So like we're going to see it and try to like gently tell you
they are stronger.
You need help.
They are stronger than us.
100,000 billion trillion %.
Every now and then I do get the listen here, you jerk. Yeah. Are you paying attention? Okay. So
my favorite word is idiot. I don't use it often, but when I have to, it's there.
And when you use it, he knows.
Oh, I know.
I usually don't say it directly to him, but he'll hear me. Idiot.
Jesus. What's wrong with you?
Was you talking to the dogs, or was that me?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. We said we were going to have fun, right?
we said we were going to have fun, and I think this is both ends of the spectrum. I think we're having a little bit of fun, and at the same time, I think the emotional part of this it's incredibly necessary This isn't anything that you guys haven't gone through before, and I'm obviously not trying to ask these questions to give you another emotional breakdown, because God knows you've had a million of them. The whole point of this podcast is to get people to process their grief, to recognize that you need to process it. As I said in the introduction, even though this podcast is called Our Dead Dads, I mean, that's by design because of what I and my brothers and my friends all went through. We're a big team, and so, we had that in common. That's how this started. But the podcast is not just about dad stories. The podcast is about grief and loss and trauma and processing it and moving forward. And you guys have all 5 of those. You found ways to deal with the worst that you've ever been through. Everybody that I have spoken with on the podcast so far has talked about how they have found ways to deal with the worst things that they have gone through. That's what this is about. I don't want people to hear the podcast and think, oh, well, I'm going to hear another story about, well, somebody died and it's all sad. And like, no, it's not. Yes, there's a lot of sad stuff that we're talking about. But the 2 groups of people that I'm trying to appeal to are the ones who have stories to tell and are willing to tell them. And then the other group is the people that are internalizing all the shit. They don't know how to get it out. And they're just sitting at home or going to work, being with their families, and the pressure is building. They basically are pressure cookers, and they don't know how to release the steam. And eventually, they're going to explode. Yeah. You got to the point where you probably damn close to exploding, and the best person in your life helped you to realize that there are ways past it. And the same thing with me. And
Nick, I think that maybe you should invite Jim back, because you could do a whole show with Jim.
I would love to.
We could do the whole season.
I think it'd be very helpful, because he's been through more than we can even talk about on this episode. So I would love for you to do that. And I agree with you. I think that people call me. I actually have talked to other mothers who are similar situation as domestic violence, murder of their child, and they've asked me, how do you do it? How did you start a foundation? How do you do this every day? And I explain to them what I explained here is it gets me through my grief, and I do it because I feel drawn to, but I also remind them that it's okay not to do that.
Not everybody has to start a foundation. No.
Everything that you feel that you can do, even if it's just waking up in the morning, if that's all you can do, then start there.
That's a huge step.
Start there and then work from that. Yeah. You do everything that you can, because I know it's hard. I have those days, and I do. Yeah. And you have to just give yourself a little grace and say, it's okay to have these days, because I deserve that.
Yes.
I don't have to be perfect. Nope. I don't have to do everything all the time. I don't have to,
you don't have to fix everything.
As much as I want to save the world, which I'm trying to do, I don't have to. I give myself a little bit of credit and say, you know what, today's a stay in bed day. Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
Today's going to suck, and tomorrow will be better. But for now, let's let today suck.
Exactly.
Do you imagine you have days like that too, Jim?
Yeah. And so when I wake up in the morning and it's one of those days, instead of focusing on what's bringing me down, I'll look out the window that's right next to our bed. The sun is shining. I hear some birds chirping. Take some nice, slow, deep breaths. And what am I thankful for? What am I grateful for in my life? And I look to my side, and I'm thankful and grateful every day that I have this amazing woman by my side. She is 110% my better half. We have our kids that are healthy. We have our pets that are rescue pets, 2 dogs and a cat that cause us unbelievable stress, but joy, and I'm happy for them. We have a roof over our head. I have a job, and it's going to be a good day, because the day is only going to be as good as I want it to be. And I just go from there.
If you could get to a place where you're just thank you for being awake. Thank you that you woke up today. Yeah. That's good enough. Yeah. That's good enough. Trying to get yourself out of those negative thought patterns is really helpful.
And with Gabby, it's sad. Never going to walk her down an aisle. You know, I always imagined Joe on one side and me on the other. Yep. Giving her shit all the way down. Sure about this. We're never going to have that moment.
She would have been dragging you both down the aisle.
Telling us to stop and be nice. And, she's never going to have any grandkids from her, which I don't know if that was ever in her wheelhouse anyway. Right. But instead of focusing on that, be thankful because she got to live her life.
Yeah.
She was ended abruptly, but she traveled.
We had 22 beautiful years together. And some people don't even get that. You got to remember, no matter what happened to you, something else worse can happen, and it could have been worse.
In many cases has happened. Yeah.
We may never have found her.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing with us is we always say, and it sounds crazy, like we're lucky we found her, because I work with families that
they have nothing. They never get closure.
No idea.
30 years, 40 years, 50 years, nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
No justice, nothing.
It may not be justice, it's resolution, it's knowing what happened, and that means a lot.
Yeah, it is at least a form of resolution. At least you have her back.
Yeah, and that's another type of grief.
Yeah.
Is not having that resolution. You're grieving every day for something that you don't know. Like, you don't know what happened.
Searching for answers you don't have.
Yeah.
Even if people know what happened, there's grief of people who know what happened and never get to get their loved ones back. For if a ship sinks, I'm thinking because earlier today I heard the song "The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald," and I mean I know that was like 50 years ago. It was the year I was born. I'm aging myself because it was the year I was born, and that milestone is coming up later this year. At least, I guess in a sense, everybody, the 29 families knew where their loved ones were. They're never going to get them back, but they know what happened. But so many families don't ever have that. They don't know where their loved ones are. It's always going to be a mystery. There's no answer. And that, I don't know, I would imagine that has to be harder than even just losing them.
I can imagine that. I remember what it felt like for those 11 days while we were waiting for her to be found. Yeah. I could imagine that it's harder to not know. Because I think about what would I be doing right now? I would still be looking for her. Yeah. And I would have never stopped. So it's different. I wouldn't say it's worse or better. It's different. Yeah. And I'm just happy that we have her with us all the time. Yeah. We know what happened. We didn't have to go through a trial because he's gone. And I'm thankful for those things because I don't know how that would have went. And I'm just, people will say, well, wouldn't you rather have seen him come to justice? And it's like, would it have changed anything? Yeah, and honestly, that's the question that I have for you guys. Would it have changed? I mean, no matter whether there was a trial or not, she's not coming back. She's not coming back, no. and he's gone. So, right.
And I don't think we would have gotten a truthful story of what actually happened, which is just going to leave you with more questions. Yeah, more questions, more frustration, more anger, and that you won't be able to direct or have any way to process. Sometimes it's better to just have a stopping point and this is all we're ever going to get out of it. And there's so many theories of what could have happened that day. Sure. But the only two people that know truly are the two people that were there. Or Gabby and Brian. I have been in a place where I have forgiven Brian. Okay. I've moved forward because I don't want to hold on to that. Yeah. I don't want to hold on to that anger. I did that for me. The other, they can do whatever they want. The other parents, everybody grieves in their own way. Forgiveness is not something that you have to do. For me, I had to because I kept thinking about it every single day. And I was like, once I forgave and I was able to release that, I felt like a weight off my shoulders. Yeah. So for me, it helped. And I'm glad that I did that. Yeah. And I feel like I'm able to focus now more on what I can do to help the world. Right. While I'm still here, I want to leave it a better place than I found it. Absolutely. And I can also understand how some people will say, well, how can you forgive him for that? And that's okay. If that's your opinion, then I understand that. Forgiveness is for yourself. Yeah. It's not for anybody else. It's for you. Yeah. It's not about him. It's not about his parents. It's not about his family. It's your individual situation. Yeah. It's your grief. It's what you can do to either stay in it or to help move past it. Yeah. Well, that was a little heavy. So, see, we had the fun part, then we had the deep part. Yeah, it's like a roller coaster ride, right? It's a roller coaster. It absolutely is. Yeah. Let's go up the roller coaster a little bit. Sure. Let's talk about the foundation. Okay. So you started it pretty quickly after all this happened. Was it in 2021? October. So a month, barely a month later. Yeah. We had friends helping us, and we weren't just the four of us doing it all together because I think we couldn't have done it on our own. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of help and we were so grateful. Yeah. I mean, there was friends that already had put on a fundraiser. Just hearing that we were starting the foundation, they were getting us ready by having a fundraiser and raising money for us before we even became a 501c3. So that was amazing. Right. Yeah, it was just a great experience
to see everybody come together for the greater good.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 years later, still going strong, developing programs. We have first responder training for domestic violence calls, and that's kind of in the works. We've got like a basic training, but we want to build out like an 8-hour class, and we want to be able to go and teach it all over the country.
Yeah.
That's actually what I was doing last night, because after playing golf, I crashed on the couch. I wasn't feeling well, and then I couldn't sleep after that. So I spent last night, I built out 2 course descriptions and syllabuses for a 4-hour and an 8-hour class, for one for fire and EMS and another one for 911 dispatchers. So I was up to about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I wrote those.
I was sleeping.
So
we also are about to launch our new website, GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. You can also find it as Gabby Petito Alliance. People will see that added. Okay. The Alliance is going to be a hub for education and training and tools and resources, all of it, all the above, from not only us, but from other organizations that we align with, partner with. Sometimes you do a Google search and you don't find something that you might be looking for.
Right.
So if people are looking for resources in Gabby Petito Foundation's page, they might find that resource in another organization that we connect them to, because they couldn't find it with the initial Google search.
Right.
So a lot of it is going to be geared towards youth and prevention. We're going to be hyping up our social media a lot with, scenario videos that kids, teenagers can watch and connect to and see.
Right.
Just learning red flags and signs.
I was just going to say, trying to capture them in the way that they see things now, right? With social media.
And speak their language.
Speak their language.
Yeah.
Right.
Like those short reels and things like that.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of see if you can capture them in that 45 seconds or that 2-minute time period.
Right.
And try to convey these messages, because we know that, this domestic violence stuff, it's starting to happen younger and younger, where they're not having these unhealthy relationships. It's starting sometimes as young as junior high. So trying to get to them before
they go wrong.
Yeah, they become a statistic.
Yeah, and we've always, in the last 3 years, we've helped pass some bills. And there's the Missing Act and the Gabby Petito Act in Florida, which is a lethality assessment for police officers to use when they go to a domestic violence call. That also passed in Utah, which we supported. We didn't make them pass it, but we were there to support the passing of that bill.
Okay.
And am I missing anything?
Expanding NAMUS, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons website, where like mandating to report there.
Yeah, it was the Missing Act, right?
The Missing Act, where people can go to that website.
Okay.
It's like namus.gov or something like that, and that's where the public can interact and search either by state, county, city, town, person's name, and they can look up long-term missing persons cases, and they can submit tips to hopefully locate them. So trying to get some more funding for them and expand their services to be able to bring more people home.
And we are joining forces with an organization called Light the Way, and they help families with missing loved ones.
Yep.
And we're going to kind of collaborate together. And she's also on our board.
Okay.
So Shana on our board. And we're going to collaborate. And there's going to, at some point, be a search and rescue formed. However, we're going to make it where it's a collaborative effort, search and rescue, where we're going to work with other people. It's not just going to be like our team traveling all over the country. We want to build a team of teams, basically.
Right.
So, again, that's where our main focus is in collaboration at the foundation. We'll be the organizations for education, training. Now we're going to do the search and rescue. I mean, there's just so many things that we're going to do, but we can't do it alone. Right. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel as a foundation. We know, and we've been doing a good job at bringing people together. So we're not going to let anybody live in their silos anymore. We're going to break that cycle and work together to help people that need it.
And it sounds like the new website, Gabby Petito Alliance, is doing exactly that. It's bringing all of the resources together in one very large place.
Yeah. And we want people to access things for free. If a teacher wants to pop on there and do a lesson for her class, we want her to be able to take that, print out what she needs to, set it just for free. Like, we don't want people to have to worry about, how can I do this? Is this going to cost money? It's just going to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's openly available to anybody and everybody who wants it.
If that's the goal. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. You mentioned that it's going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
When the timeline?
We know that the documentary is coming out February 17th.
Right.
We will be launching the website around the same time.
Okay.
Hopefully before. But the Alliance page is going to take time to build out, so there might only be a couple things on there to start with. But it will we'll keep adding to it as we bring in more partners and as we build our programs out. So we're really excited. We just want to get it launched and let people start fiddling around with it and seeing what we have to offer.
Yeah, just seeing what's out there, knowing that there is help. Yeah. That anybody who needs it. What would you say to anyone listening who thinks they know somebody who's in a DV relationship or themselves is in a relationship where they are a victim of domestic violence? If you could speak to somebody who, before it's too late, what would you both say?
I think it's important to take the steps safely when you can to contact the professionals at the hotline, which is the hotline.org, or the 800-799-SAFE is the phone number. You don't have to be a victim to call that number. You can be a friend of a friend or a family member and ask, how can I help my family member? They have information for that. We will have the links all on our page as well for those, because we believe if people come to us to look for information and they need that help right away, they can just click on a button and they'll be taken right to the hotline page. Right. Because we do not have a hotline, of course. I think that's probably never going to be our thing. We'll leave that up to the hotline. Right.
You're bringing the resources together. I don't necessarily think that you have to be the hotline as well.
But I think, when you're having so if it's another person, you want to be an open line of communication.
Supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. Very supportive. Yeah. Non-judgmental.
Right.
Understanding there's a lot of dynamics to going into domestic violence.
Of course.
Why they can't just leave, or why they don't want to leave for safety reasons. Not all abuse is physical. It could be isolation. Yeah. It can be financial abuse, love bombing, gaslighting, all that. Yeah. But they are dealt and face ultimatums every day from the person that's abusing them. Yeah. And saying things like, well, if you don't leave, then just don't call me anymore because you're bringing this upon yourself. Right. Don't victim blame. Just be that person, that shoulder to cry on, that voice or that ear to listen to their voice when they're ready to talk, and let them know that you're there. You can't force them to leave when they're ready to. And then from there, reach out to those resources where they can start that very important safety plan to start getting them out. And that's the best thing you can do. Too often in society, we so quickly blame the victim. Right.
We victim blame, we victim shame.
All the time.
We judge.
When we don't fully understand all of the dynamics that are behind it. So just support. You can't force them. No. And just understand there's probably circumstances they're not even telling you what's going on. Right. And it happens with all walks of life. It doesn't. It's not one specific group. It doesn't care how much money you have in your bank account.
Yeah. What color you are, religion you are, nothing. It does not matter. It happens to everybody.
February is actually Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. Okay. So we focus on those younger groups because it starts in like 6th grade. And there's not a whole lot of preventative teaching in school. So one of our goals is to get prevention programs for that age group, hopefully eventually in schools. But we can reach them through TikTok and other social media platforms. We can provide links on our website so they can, again, watch videos and those short videos because their attention spans are so short. And maybe they can learn some information and figure out if they're in a relationship that's not safe anymore.
Yeah, safe boundaries, red flags, healthy versus unhealthy.
Right. God, 6th grade.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even fathom that. I mean, when I was in school, when in the Flintstones age, 6th grade, the most physical contact that was going on were between two boys that just had some stupid disagreement, or two girls that, I don't know if the term still exists now, but it was called catfights back then. Just stupid shit.
And I think society's still living in that age, and that's why we're having trouble transitioning into this technology age. Right. Kids they have the world at their fingertips, so they know things at a much earlier age, and relationships are starting earlier. Yep. Their minds are growing too fast, and
way too fast.
We have to be blunt with them and teach them exactly what healthy relationships look like
Yep.
We don't have to teach them about domestic violence necessarily, but if they know what a healthy relationship looks like, then they'll know, oh, something's wrong with mine then.
Right.
So, or something's wrong at home. There's stuff going on. Maybe they'll open up to a teacher. There's so many avenues that it could take to just teach the youth in our country and in the world. Right. And maybe generations down the line, we can bring those numbers down. We'll prevent some of these domestic violence homicides.
That's the goal. That's the hope.
Yeah. And everything's so normalized still. And domestic violence, despite what people might hear, domestic violence rates are going up. Homicides are going up. And that's why it's really important right now to target the youth so those numbers go down. That they're our next generation. We're not going to be here.
Right.
But we can make it better for them, hopefully.
And that's always been the goal. I mean, how many times did our parents and our grandparents always say that when they had us, they wanted to create a better world for us. They wanted to leave the world better than they found it so that, we could have better lives. Hopefully, mostly it happens. Then there's horrible things that nobody can stop and you deal with it. But again, you can turn whatever bad that you experience into something as positive as you can. Yeah. It doesn't have to be about the answer being, well, nothing that we do is going to bring Gabby back. You know that you don't have.
I know Gabby's never coming back.
Yeah, you don't have to focus on it. You can say, you know what, you don't even have to talk about it. You can say, we're doing all of this because of what we went through. We're trying to make the world
There's
better.
Tens of thousands of other people right now experiencing what Gabby experienced before her life was taken. And some of them don't even realize it.
And maybe if they see her and her story, or if they hear us talking about her, they'll make that connection, and that'll give them the space to get out safely while they can. And that means a lot to us. If we could save a life, it prevents murder from happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like the way we're focused on the reactiveness to domestic violence in our society. We put a lot of money into that, and we need it for sure.
Yeah.
But there's little into the prevention, and that's where we come in and we saw the gap and want to focus on prevention more.
Right.
Again, because we're not reinventing the wheel, and everybody out there does an amazing. I visited some amazing domestic violence shelters and agencies that are incredible. They're doing such incredible work. Survivors are getting out. They're getting their lives back in order, and it's very successful. We need to keep that going. We have to target our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how relevant or irrelevant this is. I had a thought actually this morning. I don't know, not trying to make the comparison that it's the same or just something similar. Years ago, when Ellen DeGeneres had her TV show.
Yeah.
And there was I don't know what if it was officially called, but basically it's known as the coming out episode when she came out. And that kind of sparked a wave across the country of people coming out to their families who were terrified to do so, but that gave them the courage to do it. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm kind of hoping that this Netflix series, the docuseries, maybe even this interview will it will be heard by someone who's in a situation that they don't deserve to be in, that they don't have to be in, and they will take the first step. They will go to Gabby Petito Foundation.org. They will go to, when it's up, Gabby Petito Alliance. Is that going to be .com or .org?
It's going to be connected into the same website.
Okay.
So if they type in Alliance, they'll be taken to the same spot where the foundation is. It's all going to be cohesive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful that somebody who needs these resources, who hears this interview, who sees the docuseries, takes a step. It is so inspired by what happened to Gabby, by what you guys have all gone through, what you have done in the last 3.5 years since losing her to do your part to change the world. Somebody hopefully will see this and say, fuck, it's time. I can't live like this anymore. And take steps. You guys told me a while back, probably a couple months ago, that you went to Orlando and you did a conference there, and there was a lady that came up to you afterwards and said, because of Gabby's story, I got out of a relationship that may have ended my life.
Still get that today.
Yeah.
Because of Gabby. people seen her story before we even started the foundation. People seen her Moab video on TV, and it sparked them to leave an unsafe relationship. Yeah. And so that Gabby did all that, and we just worked through her, and we know. Listen, with the documentary coming out, I saw some comments of like, "Oh, this again? Like, we already know what happened." Well, the reason why we continue to share this story is because she touched so many lives, and we want to continue to touch more. And there may be people that didn't hear that story. There may be kids that were a little younger that weren't paying attention to the news and didn't know about the story.
Right.
We want that to keep going, and the lives being saved from it.
Yep.
If the Netflix documentary saves one life, we'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Gabby's story, but there's millions of Gabbies in this world.
Yes.
There's millions of them, and they might connect with that or see that they can get out. And
and that's kind of where I was going. I hope that similar how there was that wave back then, and that's I'm sure that there are people who are listening who are saying, really, I can't stand Ellen, and you know what, I don't care. I really don't. Like, there are people who love Ellen, there are people who hate her. That's not what this is about. This is about the end result of that. This is about so many people that were living a life that they felt they could not go public about, and they did because they were inspired by Ellen. I'm really hoping that there's another wave of that when Gabby's story hits Netflix, because at this point, who doesn't have Netflix or know somebody that has Netflix? I'm really hoping that a lot of somebodies see this story and are so inspired by her story and what you guys are doing, what you've done for so long, that they take steps. They go to the websites. They find methods of support. They reach out to whoever they have to reach out to, and they take the first steps of making their life better, of removing themselves as safely as possible. For anybody who's listening, do it as safely as possible. If it can't be an overnight thing, take the time. That's why these resources are there, so they can help you plan your next moves. That's the most important part, is the planning. Yeah. Not just getting up and going, because that's typically you can't do that. So. Right. And I just hope that, when people come to our website, if they contact us, I also want to let people know that we may not be able to answer you right away. We're not a big team. We're very small. We're 4 parents with a few extra new board members. Yes. We're going to try to build bigger teams now so we can... You can address more situations. You can help more people. We get a lot. We can't help individuals, but we can help the right resources, which is the best part. And in creating the education programs and stuff, that's going to help a vast amount of people rather than... there's agencies that help individuals. We need to work with them. Right. So we're aligning with them and helping get people to the right resources. So I just want people to be patient with us as we grow, because it's only been 3 years. And right. Yeah. I mean, it's been, look at it this way, it has been a hell of a 3 years. Yeah. You guys have done you have done so much. Mm-hmm. And we won't stop. I mean, we push and push. We want laws changed. That's our biggest goal, is to literally change the world and the way we respond to domestic violence, the way we work with families with missing loved ones, how we address missing cases, and just all these things. And it's a lot, but we're not going to stop. No, I love that. I mean, a little bit, I hope to kind of do the same thing. I mean, my tagline has kind of become changing the world one damaged soul at a time. And I know that I'm not going to do it overnight and maybe ever. But at the same time, I'm not going to stop trying. Yeah. You never know that person that's listening out there that may think they have no hope left. Yeah. And they listen to one of your episodes and you just saved a life because they realize, oh, I can go get help doing this, whatever. And might even be the ones that you don't see, because maybe you reach one and then that person reaches somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then that person creates a domino effect. So don't stop. Oh, I'm never going to stop. Making the show. At this point, I've got a long way to go. I have a lot of interviews lined up. I have plenty of guests to send your way. Yes, please. Send them over here. In fact, you got one guest right here. Jim, if you ever... Episode next. Yeah, there's obviously no pressure, but if you want to do this when again, we can. When you're ready. It can be in a week, it can be in a year or more. But if and when that time comes, if you feel that you're up for having a conversation, I know that everybody would love to hear everything else that you've got. I would love to be part of that. If to continue to be part of this journey with you, if you're up for it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know now more than ever I'm more open to talk about which I wasn't for a long time. So. Yeah, very honest about it now. Absolutely.
It takes a lot to say, I wasn't in a good place for a long time.
Yeah.
And now, for the first time, I am.
Then we will continue. I mean, there's a lot of work that we have to do together. I know that we'll continue to have a lot of conversations. When you're ready, we will have that conversation. Yeah. One last thing that I would like to put out there, and then we're going to have our fun random questions, and then we're going to wrap everything up. Do you guys want to talk about the golf outing?
Oh, yes, of course. June 6th. Long Island, New York, if you can get there. I know that's our home. That's why we decided to have it there. We had such a great first one last year. We decided to have it the same place.
It's in Mount Sinai, New York.
Yeah.
Yes.
Willow Creek.
That's it. Yep.
It's a beautiful course.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
It was a great time for those golfers, I'll tell you.
There was only
they barely to the dinner.
Group of golfers that broke a golf cart. I'm not going to say who it was. Maybe me.
Also, the team of Jim, Joe, Chris Hansen, and Pat Riley, our attorney from Northport.
Wow.
They won the last place toilet bowl.
But first off, I just want to say we were completely honest, and I don't think a lot of other people were very honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we actually golfed pretty good.
Yeah.
But no, it is a great time. The foundation is solely funded right now by private donations. We don't have any grants.
Right.
We don't have any corporate sponsors, something we're looking to move towards in the future.
Okay.
But it's a good time. Even if you can't make it, there's a sponsorship available for your business
you can find it at GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. You can click 2025 golf outing. It takes you to that information.
It's right at the top of the homepage.
Take donations for it. Anything helps because obviously it costs money to have a fundraiser.
Of course.
It always benefits because we need to get that funding. So the more donations, the better. The more sponsorships, the better. And it is a great time if you can physically get there. It's just so much fun. So I know Nick. Nick's going to try to.
Yep, I'm going to try to get up there, and we'll talk more about this offline in a little bit. But at this point, I am definitely planning on being there. We'll work out the specifics and the logistics. We even talked possibly about I'll bring up all my equipment and we'll basically live stream from the event. If there's a place for me to set up, then go live on Facebook and TikTok, and go do that for a few hours before golf and just get some awareness. And if that happens, then I will promote the golf event beforehand, and then just try to raise as much money as we possibly can for an incredible cause, and then go play some golf and do really badly. I mean, at this point, I haven't played a round of golf I think it's been like a year and a half.
Living in Florida, you should be playing.
I know. I got the same grief when we lived in Texas. I mean, I played, considering how busy we were and how much the weather sucked in New York, I played more golf in New York than I did in Texas and here. And so that needs to change, clearly.
So Joe and I, we had a little guys trip with ourselves and our attorney, Pat. We went out to Orlando in December. We had two days in a row of golf, and I did phenomenal.
Okay.
And I'm terrible.
Right.
I played well. For me, I played well. And then I went out with our cousin. I played with him. Another phenomenal round.
Okay.
Yesterday, I go out, meet up with my buddy, and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do today. I said, but the last 3 rounds, I was like on fire.
Yeah.
I think I lost a half a dozen balls on the first 2 balls yesterday.
So you just lost it. Wow.
Yeah.
It's not one of those sports you just continually improve.
No.
Bad day or a good day.
Yeah. You have plenty of good days and bad days, Jim. As a golfer, that you have driving, you have your irons, and you have putting. And if they're all on, you're going to have a phenomenal round. But, I mean, in my experience, one of the 3 will be on, and the other 2, I will shit the bed all day long.
So I can't hit my driver, so I tee off with a 4-iron all the time.
Okay.
And I just couldn't make anything work yesterday.
Yeah. It happens.
A lot of good balls were lost yesterday, Nick.
Yeah.
But
I've had those rounds too.
The golf outing is fun. I mean, we brought in a PGA guy last year. He does the longest drive competitions for the PGA.
Okay.
And you want to talk about a show this guy puts on.
Yeah, he helps raise a lot of money for... he was fantastic.
When he can hit a golf ball with a putter 380 yards... Kind of tells you.
He gets on his knees and does it he does all these tricks and stuff. Yeah.
All right, well, now I'm feeling really embarrassed.
But he also will tell you that sometimes you can't control where it goes. So
okay, well then, I mean,
makes you feel better about it.
I was gonna say if that's the case, then maybe I might be able to hit it 300 yards with a putter. I'm not gonna guarantee what direction it's gonna go in. But
so definitely a good time, and definitely if people that are like, they're on the West Coast, they can't come, but they want to know how they can help. Obviously, donating. Even taking basket donations. Like if you have a business that
you want to highlight.
Yeah, we will. If you can send something, we'll have an auction. So if you can send something for the auction, that's another way to donate and sponsor. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can help out.
And if anybody has any questions or ideas about something that they could donate or contribute for an auction, can they reach you guys through the website?
Yeah, they can either go on there and click on Contact Us, or they can email golf@gabbypetitofoundation.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Simple email. Yeah.
So all of our golfers out there, get on board with this. Either try to get up to Long Island and play, or just help by donating to the foundation or donating something for the auction.
Or just come to the dinner.
Just come to the dinner or just continue to spread the word, and hopefully others will do the same. Yeah, but I'm super excited. I'm glad that you guys told me about it, and we're going to continue to talk about this, but my plan is to be up there. I'll probably go for the whole week. I'll work the first part of the week and take off there and just play golf, and maybe I'll drink a little.
That's what they all say.
Yeah, a little. I don't want to embarrass myself too heavily. So seriously, guys, thank you so much for doing this. It means a great deal that you were willing to have this conversation, that you were willing to come here and do this in person, but just to allow me the honor of being part of your story. I'm so glad that we have had these conversations, that we have all become friends, and I'm excited to continue supporting you guys, continuing supporting the foundation, the friendship, everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for continuing to talk about grief and the importance of it, and for your caring about our awareness and advocacy work that we're doing. And it's not just about what happened to Gabby, but how things can change because of what happened. So thank you.
What is it that your website is turning tragedy into
triumph?
I think it's turning tragedy into triumph.
Pain into purpose? We
have a few
different sayings.
Yeah, you've got a few of them. Turning tragedy into triumph, turning pain into purpose. And I think those are great statements to put out there, and hopefully everybody is willing to be part of it, to help the foundation, to continue or start their own grief journeys. Whatever we can do to make this world better, whether for everybody, for one person at a time, whatever it takes. Even one person at a time is fine, because if you're not capable of taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else.
Yes. I always say make sure you put your mask on first before you help somebody else, like they say on the plane.
Like on the plane, put your mask on and then help your children. Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care is so critical.
It's the biggest investment you can make.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it's something that all of us have at one time or another, or many times, overlooked. And it really is. It's so important.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a little bit of fun to end this.
Rapid fire.
We're going to do some rapid fire. All right. We're going to do some questions.
Great.
Let's see what comes up. What is your favorite rainy day activity?
Scary movies.
Love scary movies.
Yeah.
Hate scary movies, but watching movies. Comedies.
So, all right. So you and I are going to watch scary movies. You and Kim will watch something else, because Kim hates scary movies too. She refuses to watch them with me.
I love them.
So you and I will watch horror, and they'll watch, I don't know, Hallmark? I don't know. No, not at all. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm sure we can find something. All right. Do you sleep with stuffed animals?
I do have one in my bed, yes.
Okay.
I'm forced to, because she sleeps with one in the bed.
I was going to say, are you the stuffed animal?
No.
No.
I didn't even think of that until you said it.
Oh, my goodness. What is the name of the street you grew up on?
Oh, Waverly Avenue.
Park Street.
Park Street. I know Waverly Avenue. In fact, I have friends that live on Waverly Avenue. Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Godfather.
Nice. L.A. or New York?
New York.
That's right. If you could go back in time and change history, would you?
No.
Somehow I knew you were both going to say that. Black beans or refried beans in your burritos?
Black.
Okay. I'm not a bean person at all.
I love black beans. I want to talk about.
What is your favorite junk food?
Ooh.
There you go. Thought-provoking question.
So much. Literally, I guess is chocolate considered junk food? Because yes.
I mean,
all about chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, there's apparently healthy chocolate.
Like, I do like dark chocolate, but I mean, you can give me an almond Snicker bar any day.
Oh, absolutely.
Kill it.
He's moving to Florida.
Uh-huh.
Publix chocolate frosted donuts from the bakery.
I have not had one of those yet.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
They're like pieces of crack, or are they just terrible?
Well, they're crack. I don't like donuts anyway, but the
so
kids
good.
will.
When they come out fresh.
My son will take it and shove the entire donut in his mouth in one shot.
Wow.
Outing the kid.
Sorry, I'm just saying they're that good.
That's okay. Yes. Super Mario Brothers or Zelda?
Super Mario Bros.
Do you guys Super Mario Kart?
I haven't done that. No.
I have with the kids and stuff, but not like exclusively.
Yeah. All right, so then I'll tell you what. I have in the thing behind you a Super Nintendo Classic with like pretty much every Nintendo, Super Nintendo video game.
I wanted one of those.
Yeah.
A few Christmases ago.
Well, when I got mine, I actually found somebody who modified it, and so like instead of just the original 30, it has like everything. So maybe like
we'll have to have a game day.
Well, yeah, we'll have to have a game night, get you back into it, and then or also like if you come back for your interview, we can do that. But yeah, we'll have to figure out a game night.
Awesome.
And so absolutely, just Super Mario Kart until we pass out. Maybe we could make a drinking game out of it. Ooh, now I'm having thoughts. What was your last impulse buy? So the question is impulse buy, and I've kind of modified this one a couple times when it's come up. I say, what was your last impulse buy over $100?
Okay, on the cruise for sure. Something. Let me think. Yes, it was like these hair products in the salon on the cruise.
Okay.
And it was like $150 for 2 items.
Wow.
Yeah, stupid.
Mine was on the cruise too. There was the DJI Osmo 6 tripod.
I was there for that too.
AI enhanced phone holder.
Okay. You didn't get the hair products?
Actually, that was me too, because I was like, just get it. We need one anyway.
Yeah. And,
So-
But no tax on the cruise. So.
Right.
and acupuncture, but that was more like health wise.
Okay.
We have a few
So,
things here. From
Tripod, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was a good price.
It's like
Duty
the
free.
thing you hold and it control it with the buttons. So the
Oh,
phone goes around
the gimbal? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gimbal. Yeah,
It's like a
Okay.
fancy
DJI gimbal tripod. You can set up as just a tripod. And then
Nice.
there's an AI setting on it, so if you're doing like a speaking engagement or something, that it'll register you, and then as you're recording, it'll follow you.
And
around.
Jim's gonna unbox it on some point on TikTok. So
Ooh.
I'm waiting for him to open it.
I got to do it because we need it for next week for we're speaking in
Yes.
Myrtle Beach.
All right. Well, so then by the time that this releases, that will have already been done. So if anybody wants to see it, follow Jim on TikTok. Do you want to give your TikTok handle?
Jim_Schmidt. is
Okay.
my TikTok handle.
And Nikki, do you want to give yours just
Same
in case
thing.
anybody wants to follow?
Niki_Schmidt.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to follow me as well, it is at Our Dead Dads Pod. So follow all of us because we have a shitload of fun on TikTok. We have so much fun.
A lot of lives.
A lot of lives. A lot of fun. Are your grandparents mildly rude?
Mine are all deceased.
Oh, so were your grandparents mildly rude?
I would say yeah. They could. Yeah.
Okay.
My grandmother's, no. My other grandfather I never knew because he died when I was a baby.
Okay.
But my grandfather, who I am named after, God rest his soul, I'll never forget going to a diner with him once, and he wanted more coffee, and to get the waitress's attention, he just held his empty mug up in the air until she came over.
Yeah, that's pretty rude.
So I remember my grandmother was mortified.
I wouldn't tolerate that.
Oh, your grandmother was there too?
Oh, it was the whole family was there.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
My grandmother was mortified. And
Don't be rude to servers. I will call you out.
He was Jim as well, and I think that was the only time I ever heard her call him James.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, you know, when you use your full legal
Sorry.
name, you know that you're in trouble. That's right.
Held it up.
Anybody listening, don't ever do that. You will be beaten by somebody who's with you, and you'll probably deserve it. For each of you, what is one of your nicknames?
I'm just Nikki, who's my nickname, I guess.
Okay.
Jimbo.
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 That's right. How long does it take you to get ready? Doesn't say for what. So, for a night out, let's go.
Okay, for a night out, I would say like 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay.
I'm really putting on the face.
Yep.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I was going to say 5-10 minutes.
He's got to do his hair.
Depends on if I have to shave.
Exactly. What motivates you the most?
It's a good question. I mean, we've talked about a lot what motivates us, right? Like we want to change the world. So yeah, it motivates us to change what isn't working. That's what motivates us. Yeah.
Right.
My wife.
That is the best
Brownie
answer
points.
you can give. Brownie points. What is your guilty pleasure? See, not related to food this time.
Does it have to be food?
It
I feel
could,
like mine
or
is food. I just food.
okay,
I'm
food
just
is
gonna
good.
go with food.
Food. Not even a category, just food.
Jim likes those things you put in your mouth, the Zins, nicotine.
Nicotine
Zins.
pouches.
That's his. I would say that's
okay.
a guilty pleasure.
Former smoker?
No.
No,
You
that's
just
the weird
You
part.
just like them.
So
weird.
when my mom got sick with cancer in 2020, I came home from the hospital, and I had to get something to eat, and I stopped by this little bar or tavern by us to get some food, and my buddies were there. My buddy had one, and he was like, I'm like, what are those? And he's like, oh, don't try them. He's like, they're highly addictive. I'm like, what is it, like tobacco or something? He goes, no, it's just straight nicotine. I was like, oh, let me try one of those. That was it.
Oh, boy.
I don't get it. I don't get it. But yeah, there you go. Guilty pleasure right there.
I mean, I can say as a former smoker, I started when I was 16. Thankfully, I quit when I was 19. So I understand that part of it. But also, cigarettes are a complete turnoff to me. I will have an occasional cigar.
I've done that like a few times, but it's been a long time, I think. Yeah. Probably 2 years since I've had one.
But actually having the nicotine, that's...
And he's always, I hear... Yeah,
well, I no longer use the Zin. I'm now onto this other one that my son turned me on to because it's stronger.
Okay.
And,
my son, he does that too?
No, he just works at a place where I can buy them for really cheap.
Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah. We're going to start a family war here. Do you prefer social time or alone time?
Alone. He's definitely social. No doubt.
Is that why you're on TikTok more than Nikki is?
Yes.
And she was the one who told me to go on it. You got to put yourself out there more.
That was my fault.
Okay. What is your favorite work memory?
I don't have anything specific. I just loved, I have a memory in general. I loved working with a service dog. I was a dog handler and my student was my special ed student, and then I was the dog handler, and I just loved spending every day with that dog. My student too, I love her too, but the dog was so cute.
I don't know if it was a favorite moment, but I would just have to say probably one of the greatest moments was saving the life of a 2-week-old baby.
Wow.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Jim's got good stories. It's fun,
Yeah. I mean, I know you've got some not good stories, but
that was
that's pretty incredible.
That a bad day turned into a better day for that family.
Yeah. Child is still there because of you.
Yeah. That was 22 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It's nice when you can make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we met. We were EMTs. And I absolutely loved being an EMT. Yeah. Fully volunteer.
Right.
I never did it as a career. Well, I tried it.
You tried it. She didn't like it.
I didn't like it. I like volunteering better.
Keep it as a volunteer.
Yeah.
Amazing. 2 questions left. Have you ever been to Africa?
Nope.
No.
I'd like to. Yeah.
Do like a safari or something, or like any particular countries that you'd want to visit?
I'd like to see like Egypt, maybe Morocco, places like that.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Well, one good thing, you guys are, and for anybody who doesn't know this, my wife is a travel agent, and you guys are already working with her for a trip for next year.
I would like to go to Germany. Yes.
Yep.
We're going to Germany?
We as in me, yes. I'm planning it for us, but I'm the one planning it, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm the German one.
That's right. You can stay home and play golf. No, it's okay.
Are we going for Oktoberfest?
Maybe.
We won't talk about the details. But anybody who's looking to plan a trip, either talk to Niki and Jim about some great places you can go, or reach out to me and I will put you in contact with my wife. Or listen to the episode and you can find out how to contact her in the commercial.
There you go.
There you go. All right, last question. Do you think you could ever win a game show?
I would psych myself out. I'd probably be like the biggest loser. Yeah.
It depends on the game show.
Okay.
But I have a ton of useless, dumb knowledge.
Useless trivia?
And I feel like I could probably get my way through.
Okay.
On some of them, yeah.
Is there a particular... So I'll go this one further for either of you. If you could be on a game show, is there one that you would love to be on?
Price is Right.
I don't even know if it's still a... What's the one now that we started watching with Rob Lowe?
Oh, The Floor.
The Floor.
The Floor.
That's a strategy, but also like you have to just be quick. Yeah, that's a good show. I would definitely lose that big time. Yeah.
Would you guys ever do something like The Amazing Race, like team up together?
No. Physical challenge. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Mr. Beast's show that he's got.
Beast Games.
Beast Games?
Yeah.
Check it out. It's very different.
It's different.
I mean, I haven't seen... I've heard about the show. I haven't seen it, but I've seen a lot of his videos where he's got these absurd challenges.
I see a little bit of psychological component to it.
Yeah.
Like what people would do for money, and it's kind of weird.
It is a little bit weird.
So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Absolutely. I think that wraps it up, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And Niki and Jim, thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming here, for, again, allowing me into your world and to be part of it, for your friendship, for all of it.
Yeah,
it
takes us all. Let's work together on changing the world.
Absolutely. Let's change the world. And everybody out there, help us change the world together.
Yeah.